אחר צהריים טוב, אחר ארוחת צהריים טובה. אנחנו, כמו שאתם רואים, אנחנו בקשר ישיר עם טים טולנס בבלגיה. כמו שציינו קודם, הוא הולך לנתח פרסטומל הרניה בגישה לפרוסקופית. אני רוצה להגיד, השידור הזה כולו נתמך, מאורגן, ממומן ויזום על ידי ג'ונסון אנד ג'ונסון ישראל, ואני מאוד מאוד מודה להם. אני במיוחד נראה לי מוצלח מאוד, לפחות עד עכשיו, הקטע הטכנולוגי. היה לנו בעבר ניסיונות לא טובים עם העברות שלא ראו טוב, ממש לא... נראה טכנית שזה הולך יפה, אני מקווה שזה יעבוד. מה שמעניין פה במיוחד, מעבר לקשר, פה למעלה אתם רואים את טים, פה זה המצלמה שלנו כאן, שהוא יכול לראות אותי ולשמוע אותי. אם יהיו שאלות שלכם תעבירו, אני אשאל אותו תוך כדי. מה שיותר נחמד פה, שאני יכול לשלוט על המצלמות שלו, זאת אומרת, אני יכול להחליט מה אנחנו רואים, שהוויו הראשי מרחוק או את המצלמה על הפרוסקופית. זאת כרגע המצלמה על הפרוסקופית, וזאת המצלמה הראשית, ומעבר לזה אני יכול גם לשלוט על המצלמה הזאת, כמו שאני עושה עכשיו. גם זום וגם כל דבר שאני רוצה לעשות. אז נראה נורא נחמד, בפעם ראשונה שאנחנו עושים את זה, נראה לי טכנולוגית איזושהי פריצת דרך שתאפשר לנו לעשות את זה אולי יותר פעמים בצורה טובה. אז אני אוציא את המיוט ואני אחזור לטים. Hi team, we are ready whenever you are. Tim, can you hear us? Tim, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can we get some basic details about the patient?
Yes. This is an 81-year-old female. 81, so she's fairly old. She has a parastomal hernia after she was treated for a rectal tumor. This surgery, so this abdominal perineal rectal resection was a long time ago. So oncologically she's doing well. This is years ago, but she's having problems with her parastoma. So she's symptomatic, has pain, cramps, and the stoma is quite large. My full hand is covering the stoma, so it's a large stoma. Patient is in supine position, bladder catheter, nasogastric tube. We are working with a tip-on-chip 30-degree camera. The stoma is here, and we have the stoma completely out of my operating field draped, so we are not in contact with the stoma as such. I did a right subcostal insufflation, and I am now building a pressure in the abdomen. The view, everything okay, Taban?
So far, the control of the room camera is excellent, and just feel free to talk to us whenever you want, and if it will not bother you too much, we'll ask questions from time to time if anybody from the audience will. Okay, so go ahead.
Absolutely, do so. Absolutely, thank you. You will soon get a laparoscopic view now. I'm just going to test for adhesions.
Now we have the laparoscopic view.
Mag ik hoofd naar beneden? Can I have head down? So first chakra going in. So working pressure is 14-15. We insufflated 5 liters. That's where we punctured. But no harm is done. De trokaar is een geweldige slechte trokaar. Dit is een trokaar hier. Alsjeblieft. Ja, wat is het? Ja, het mocht een extra kunnen verdelen. Ja. Mag ik een wasje? So I'm going to introduce a second right hand, which is a 11mm muscle splitting chokra. It's on the mid-clavicular line. In this case, going to the right fossa. The chokra is from applied medical. It's not a cutting chokra, as you can see, it's a splitting chokra. I'm going to introduce another 5mm on the left hand. Mocht de lichten uit doen. Grote orkaan mag uit en dan de zaal op een moment vooruit. Mocht de zuiger geven. Ja. Geef ik je een compression mee. So we are ready to start our intra-abdominal exploration. Just got to check if we punctured somewhere, but we did not puncture the liver. It's coming from the falciform. Oh, we did here. Okay, not a problem. Mag ik het pedaal alsjeblieft? Dat wordt een viezenmesh en secure strap met verschillende maten viezenmesh hier binnen zetten. Ook en als we hele grote maten hebben op apotheek, dat we die ook in huis hebben. Compressie terug voor mij. En dan de zuiger. So, I just cut the falciform ligament just to be safe and sure that I did not damage anything. And so we are ready to start the surgery. I'm turning around to 30 degrees now. So this elderly female is in need for proper repair so that she will get away and freed of her symptoms. As you can see, bowel adherences or adhesions. Appreciate sharp dissection. So we just initiated adhesolysis. Dit nog maar een klein beetje licht misschien. Ja, dat is perfect. Fair amount of adhesions. Tafel iets genomen, alsjeblieft. We are still far away from the hernia, so all of this is rather bad adhesions. So whenever you have difficult adhesolysis, you always start to approach on it from more easy and feasible area, and you gradually move towards more difficult areas. I'm going to change scissors as we speak. Sometimes we better take down the posterior sheath of the fascia, then to cut into the bowel. So sometimes you will see that I will jump into a plane just a little bit higher, as I do right now. See this? I esteem it's better to go higher and stay out of that plane. Yes.
A question from the audience.
Yes.
Somebody asks, how many times or did it happen before that you had to convert due to severe adhesions?
So conversion due to adhesions is very rare. I just take my time, and in most cases I can manage. What can happen though is that I have a bowel perforation, and this might jeopardize the surgery. But conversion for adhesions is, I'm not going to say zero, of course, but it's rather rare, I must say.
Thank you. לא נלחץ אותו. נחכה שיהיה, ואז... אם אני אשאל אותו וזה יקרה, הוא יחשוב שזה יקרה. אין מצב, אני לא שואל שאלה.
I was just telling to my nursing staff that this was Hebrew.
Yes, you won't believe what we spoke about here.
I don't want to know.
You don't want.
You see, again I'm taking posterior part of the fascia.
Yes.
Most of my dissection is by sharp. This went better than I anticipated. So this is all to the midline. Hallelujah. And as we speak, we get view of the actual hernia. I don't think we damaged any bowel, so it looks like we will be able to do a sugar baker or a modified sugar baker. En dat is omdat ze elkaar staan. good. If you see what we have now, it's a much better thought as in the beginning. I thought it was going to be much more difficult, so we are blessed.
How far from the stoma, from the hernia, do you separate all adhesions to the abdominal wall?
Oh, quite far. You know, I want to have a nice big mesh inserted. So I normally, the minimum I put for such a type of repair is a 20 by 25 physio mesh. So it's always better to have it nicely dissected. You notice that I don't use a lot of cautery. I think one should try to avoid too much cautery. I'd rather have a bit of oozing and bleeding than too much of cautery.
Yes,
very important. One can appreciate the sharpness of my scissors.
Do you suture such lesions?
I don't think it's necessary. It's not transmural. It's just serosa. There is no ischemia. So for such a micro tear, I'm quite comfortable. What do you think, Doron?
No, I agree with what you said. בוא תשאל. Tim, do you ever use 45 degrees scope?
Do I sometimes use what?
45 degrees scope.
Very rarely. So what I will do now is I will take some measurements. As you can see, the hernia has been reduced. What I think is important is to see how the stoma is going. See? So the coloscopy is turning here. So this is what we call partially the subcutaneous prolapse. We did not damage the bowel. Lembomass. Smear from the needle. I'm going to do some methicillitis. After me, because I'm going to do. Zijn aan het opnemen, hè? Nee, niet dichterbij. Ik word nou weer op elkaar staan dichten. Je moet op een of andere manier anders kijken. Ja. Niet rond door het lucht vastgemaakt, alleen niet door het gat geslijten. Ja. Dan een keer op het wat zo. Meer naar achter. So we are now heavily reducing the hernia. What I want to do is try to mobilize in order to prevent some of the subcutaneous prolapse. If I can reduce a bit the prolapse, I'm happy. But you can not always prohibit that prolapse. This is part of the herniating sac. You can start to see how the stoma is going up. Big subcutaneous prolapse can give the false impression of parastoma hernias. It can give malfunction. Can lead to leaking plates. So one wants to really maximize the repair. you have to be careful. Huh? So, Maxim, my registrar, is pushing very, very hard on the outside now, trying to reduce as much as possible, whereas I will try to mobilize even more if I can.
Team?
Yes.
Does it happen that this mobilization compromises the blood supply to the distal part of the stomach?
Oh, yes, you have to be very careful. I agree completely with your point. We must be very careful not to block down the blood supply. Otherwise, you would have a good parastomal hernia repair, but a necrotic stoma. And it's not the first time that it would happen to me either, to be honest. So be careful with that blood supply. The only thing here on the pre-op scan I could see on this patient is that the prolapse, subcutaneous prolapse was big, was very big, and I was tempted to go and reduce as much as I can from this prolapse. Most surgeons would not even pay attention to this and just put the mesh on top and think that they did a good job. But you have to be very meticulous in this type of surgery. This is muscle fibers here.
Yes, we can see. Yeah. Here's another reason why it's important to do this mobilization. It's because you want to try to close the gap, and if you don't know how the hernia is
within the hernia sac, you might compromise and cut into bowel or put stitches into bowel. So we have to be careful.
When do you know when it's enough to dissect towards the stomach?
The moment I think I know my anatomy, how to put my stitches, if I can close, then okay, but now I still don't feel comfortable to go and put stitches because I have not a clear view on the running of my So, you see at this stage here, it's unclear for me. I can see and feel it's very adherent. And having a tear might compromise the whole surgery, so be careful. Okay, we will clean the camera. Clean the camera again. Better. cutting some of the fibers.
Tim.
So slowly getting there.
Tim, what would have happened if you left this angle at the end untouched?
Well, if you would put stitches to close the gap, you would have your stitches into the colostomy. And then you would have a serious problem. So it's mandatory to really dissect it out and visualize everything so that in the end it becomes very transparent and visible what is what. I'm still not completely happy, but I hope that in a couple of seconds I will be happy. So, almost finished. With my repair. So here I mobilized enough. To be putting my stitches, as you can see. Yeah, clean the camera. I want to be safe when I close the gap and make sure that I am not grabbing part of the subcutaneous prolapse into the gap. That is most important. You can appreciate the measure behind the bowel. Another option would be to put the finger in the stoma. It's almost okay. Many instruments can really do it. That's bowel. So that will allow me to close this part of the mesh, this part of the hernia gap in a safe manner. First thing I will do is close the gap and make some measurements. So I will introduce a ruler now. Let me touch it. Just to have an idea about the sizes of this defect. So it's between 4 and 5 centimeters in height. And it is between 7. So it's, let's say 5 by 7. 5 high, 7 wide. Can I have a rolling clarity? No. Inches. So my plastic ruler is out now. We are going to clean the camera, and then I'm going to close the gap with extracorporal stitches using a non-resolvable proline 0. We did mobilize a fair amount. See, to make these stitches safe, you need to know exactly where the stoma is in its subcutaneous area. So you need to have it dissected out. It was a difficult mobilization. So I am performing what is called a modified fisherman's knot. I have a special instrument which I have already introduced in Israel also. It's a knot pusher, but next to a knot pusher. And I will show you that. It is also a scissor. So that looks to me as a good approximation. And see now, I can cut it. So it has a 2-in-1 action. Alright, I'm going to put a second stitch. And we are going to gradually zip it a little bit and close it. Anyone who's done these type of stitchings knows that this is not easy. So these are zero proteins, quite strong. The strength of my repair is not going to depend on these stitches, but it will aid in the repair for sure. Again, checking. It looks fine. Our third stitch. Now you see the importance of mobilization, otherwise you could not put these stitches. You would have no idea, is it safe, is it not safe? Wordt net een beetje confusie. En? 2030 en 2025 hebben we niet. Dat is nou perfect om te vragen. Dat zijn nog andere maten hebben we waarschijnlijk niet, maar ik wil zeker zijn. As you can see, Maxim is retracting the bowel already. while I make my knot on the outside. This is absolute teamwork. This is not something you can do on your own. I'm not going to narrow it even more than this. I will accept it as such. But what I will do is, you could think, okay, maybe put one more stitch. But maybe one more. What then we will do is we will reinforce this suture line with the first mesh. So we are going to use two meshes. The first mesh is going to reinforce the abdominal wall. The second mesh will do the reconstruction of the stoma hernia. The first mesh I put is a 15 by 15, which is just going to cover the sutured line. So it's a reinforcement of my sutured line. Okay, we are not going to narrow more than this, more than enough. So the first thing I will do now is take a first mesh, a 15 by 15 physio mesh. And we have the mesh. So we are waiting for the mesh now to come on the table. Please do not take the meshes on table at the beginning of the surgery. Only put the meshes on table at time of insertion so that the free air time basically is reduced to very, very few. So physio mesh is now coming on table. This is the latest generation of tissue separating mesh. The core structure is a Ultra Pro lightweight mesh which has built-in elasticity. This is a laminated mesh that has a tissue separating barrier monocrystal. The monocrystal is kept to the mesh with PDS. There's monocrystal on both sides, which means that the mesh can be put in both ways. There is no upper or lower part. The mesh doesn't color, it doesn't stain. The mesh has extremely well handling. You will see and appreciate that very shortly. So what I will do is I will cut a slit in the middle part of the mesh. As you can see, this is the mesh. And from one side, I will cut a 2 centimeter hole.
Tim?
Yes?
The fact that this mesh is equally built both sides with monocrystal layer, doesn't it interfere with adhesion to the abdominal wall?
Well, this is something very particular about this type of mesh. It's a good question, Doron. This type of mesh has the same barrier on both sides, and a lot of people wonder how can the same barrier on both sides have different actions. And this is strange if you think about it. But the answer is that the surroundings are different. A substance can have different type of behavior depending on the surroundings. If you take water and you cool it, it will freeze. If you heat it, water, it will give you fog and the mist. So meshes do act differently depending on the surroundings. And on one side you will have full contact abdominal wall, and on the other side you will have moving bowels. So the inflammatory reaction and the mucosal lining on both is not the same. So here you have the first mesh going in, and this mesh is merely to cover the sutured lining. See this? So we are going to position it on the sutured lining. Can I have a secure strap? So I'm going to use a secure strap now. So on one side the mesh has contact with the abdominal wall, and you have a normal inflammatory reaction which will lead to attraction of numerous cells such as macrophages, and in the end they will crack down and absorb the resorbable component and lead to incorporation. Whereas on the visceral side with the bowel, you have bowel moving all over, and you will not have the same action, because you will never have the same continuity of inflammatory reaction. So it's different surroundings leading to different actions. This is a semi-transparent mesh, as you can see. So I just tacked it. So this dagger is a 5mm dagger. It is not the structure of a helical fastener. So this is a U-shaped type of resorbable dagger. The width is 3.5mm, so it can grab macroporous meshes. Most meshes nowadays are macro or megaporous, as you call it. And it's important to have daggers that can have appropriate fixation. Other daggers will not grab into this type of mesh, or insufficiently. And so gradually, as you can see, moving up, in order to have both meshes lay on top of one another here. I will not tack on this. So this is my first loader. So this is just to reinforce the lateral part here. I will add some tags now to this also. I'm getting a second secure strap on table. This technique was described by Peter Berger, a professor in Germany who works in Stuttgart, and he's got a very neat technique, which is the one that you're seeing at this stage. Making sure the mesh has good contact with the abdominal wall.
We have a question here from the audience about possible mesh erosions on the intestinal wall, or even as bad as penetration to the lumen.
Yes, yes. This is a concern, and where we normally say don't put mesh in contact with bowel, and this type of repair we put mesh and polypropylene all over the place. So this is a very true remark. I must comply with that. On the other hand, after absorption, and this takes place in about 7 days after absorption, this is a lightweight mesh, which is an Ultra Pro. It's very, very soft, very, very flimsy. So to go and say that it's a rigid structure that is highly to erode, I must say that with this type of mesh, I have not seen it yet. We have at this stage 26 cases of parastomal hernia repair operated in the unit. So the next thing I will do now is I will suture the colostomy to the lateral abdominal wall. So I will ask for some stitches. Okay. So now we are looking from below. So I'm waiting for my stitch to, if only 1 or 2 stitches to lateralize it. Yeah. Yeah. And once about 2 or 3 stitches. And then once this is done, I will add a second measure sum of all of this, which will create the tunnel between the abdominal wall and the mesh. And within that tunnel, the bowel is going to be captured, and it is that vent mechanism that will prohibit recurrences. So I'm just grabbing peripheral fat of the meso, because I want to avoid that with my stitches I obliterate the feeding artery. You can put as many stitches as you want, 2, 3, 4, but in the past I was doing a lot of stitches. Now I try to reduce on the amount of stitches.
Doesn't it look somewhat twisted?
Well, it's a very lax and mobile colostomy. I was paying attention to myself. I will have a look at it, and if I am not happy, I will release my sutures. But I had exactly the same idea. But I think once I put the stitch on it, it will straighten out. Let's see. I will see now immediately. Don't forget that the patient is insufflated at this stage, and we are going to desufflate. So I think if you agree with me, Doron, we are okay. All right? Good. So I will now put the second mesh. So the hernia gap was 5 by 7. You need 5 overlap on both sides. At least 7, I would say you need 7 overlap. So 3 times 7, 21. The next size to that is 25. So normally for this I would put a 20 by 25, which is my standard mesh for such a type of repair. So I'm going to ask for anything that will be around 20 by 25. My connection? So I think we have in our unit 20 by 30, so I will cut the mesh to a smaller size. So the mesh is coming on table. So the mesh is coming on table. Meanwhile, you have a nice exploration of our theater. En doekje. Mag ik hem? Begin ik wel al wat te doen? So the second mesh is coming out. And I'm going to resize it. I'm just going to cut out 5 centimeters. Okay.
לא יאומן השביתה הזאת מפה על המסלול. חוויה. לא, זה מדהים. האיכות של השידור היא מצוינת, זה הכי טוב שראיתי אי פעם. שידור מדהים.
So we are creating a circular mesh now, or oval-shaped mesh. as I cut the mesh asymmetrical, the middle part of the mesh will not be the middle anymore, the drawing, so I'm calibrating again the drawing and creating a new midline. As you can see, I made a new midline because this initially was the center point, but I had cut off about 5 centimeters. So this is going to be the midline. Now I'm going to fold the mesh. You can see this is a very pliable mesh, even big sizes. This is 20 by 25. It's going in very quickly, you will see. So the mesh is in. As you will appreciate, it has good characteristics, good memory. It opens up. Now you can see the new midline, which is very important for me because this is going to center my mesh. And now we are going to position the mesh on top of all of this. So this is going to buttress or sandwich my colostomy. You can appreciate the colostomy here. So the orientation of the mesh is going to change just a little bit. This is the middle part of the mesh here, and that's where the colostomy goes outside. See that? So my first tacker, and now it's still one tacker inside. I can play a little bit and shift.
A question from the audience trying to understand why the second mesh is so large. Why do you have to overlap as far as you do?
Well, to begin with, the mesh is laid partially on the previous mesh. Mesh on mesh is like men on men. It's not giving children. It's not giving ingrowth. So I am convinced that you need to have big size meshes in such a way that at least the mesh can make contacts with human tissue, leading to good ingrowth. That's my main reason. I want to have a big overlap. Big overlap means good ingrowth.
Excellent answer.
Thank you, Tollens.
Another good question here is how long is your follow-up in average so far, and have you ever had cases of severe adhesions that require the intervention?
We have had 2 reoperations, very bad cases, with one relocation of the stoma because of a erosion of the mesh into the colostomy, and this was a protein mesh. So this was in the past, but we have had one such a case, and it was not a good case. It was very bad, I must say. The second patient developed a recurrence, and we ended up doing an open approach on that patient. So, I'm gradually increasing the fixation on the second mesh, and I'm getting my third tacker, and I hope I will be sufficient with the third tacker to type of tacker. I have great experience with it. But be careful because it contains a lot of energy, and whenever it's something has a lot of energy, it can have risk also. So now we are looking from completely below. Be careful with this here because this is all on the stoma. You see that the mesh has to be well deployed. This is where the stoma is going in. So if I go a little bit higher, it's safe to tack. This is and now you start to see the quality of the repair. This looks much better.
It looks very good.
This here should remain supple. Don't tack on this. Don't try to tighten it either. It will get poor results. So don't try to fix it. Careful to tackle in the lower right part here because you might be close to the elected effect. So this is the mesh being deployed. It's a sandwich technique. The only thing remains to be done for me is to put some transitional stitches. Because we think that tackers will give you short-term prohibition of bowel migration between the mesh and the abdominal wall. What is important is that in the long term, the mesh is in position, can have a needle. And so we put transitional stitches. Let me show you how we do that. So I will take a needle, and I will check, this is the midline, this is the midline, and from this midline on, I will put some stitches. So, start incision. And the mesh is going to be fixed with this. So every 7 centimeters, I will put one stitch. Via the same start incision. And you can see I pull out the suture and I will suture it. When you suture this, you have to suture it very gently. These are what we call translation sutures. We have good data from woolen speeds saying that these sutures, and also by the Dutch team, by Van der Riet, saying that transversal sutures have a better and longer retention capacity than any tracker.
What is the incidence of postoperative pain due to these stitches?
Oh, well, this is the pitfall. These stitches cause pain, as you can imagine. So, this is the downward of these stitches. It's pain. But if you tie them loosely, the pain can be countered. So another important remark, my right hand is telling me, Dr. Ahrens is telling me that I should focus and tell you about the fact that one stitch is into the mesh and the other stitch pulling out is out of the mesh, which is very much true. So I always try to emphasize to have one stitch through the mesh and then the other stitch outside of the mesh.
Yes, we can see that clearly.
All of this is done with one small staff incision of about 2 millimeters.
Tim?
Yes, Doron.
Actually, as I understand, it's almost close to the end of the procedure.
Excuse me?
Are you close to the end of the procedure?
Yes, as I am going to put several stitches now, I'm going to continue my transabdominal stitches here, and that's it. I put the Jackson Pratt drain, and that's it. So if you need to disconnect, for the Congress, we are fine, and we are almost to the end of the surgery.
Yes, I must tell you that we are very much impressed. I heard some comments here about how good a surgeon you are. And obviously I agree, we know you, and we planned exactly to this time to go on with our program. So on behalf of all of us, I would like to thank you again and hope to meet you soon.
The pleasure is for me, and I'm sure that together with my friends from J&J, with Dr. Abraham Sushak and with Amit Lehavi, we are planning a roadshow to again to Israel, and to my pleasure, because you know I love Israel and I love Israeli art. I'm very fond of David Gerstein and I want to visit him, so we plan on coming down, or I plan on coming down in February. So the pleasure will be mine to meet up again with all my friends. Thank you very much. Shalom.
Bye team. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.